In early spring, there is a quiet beauty all through the northern forest. Although this gives the impression that the land is lifeless, up here a number of animals have already been shaking off their winter blues. Today on Wild by Nature, we are going to meet a very amorous grouse, a friendly jay that is almost done nesting, and a really big animal with a most unusual craving. Join me, Michael Runtz, as we explore the northern forest for these amazing rites of spring. What a beautiful spot. This is typical spruce grouse habitat. Here we have black spruce all around me. Down below me, a whole carpet of bog plants, things like leatherleaf, sheep laurel, Labrador tea with a really fuzzy underside to the leaves. This lush green habitat is the ideal habitat to find spruce grouse in. That's my poor imitation of a female spruce grouse, but it does work. I've had males court right at my feet. There's a male spruce grouse right over here somewhere. I just heard his flutter flight. This open black spruce fir habitat is ideal this time of year for the courtship. The display is phenomenal. Let's go find this bird. There he is, right ahead of me. There he is, there's the male. Now we're entering his territory, and his displays here are designed to attract females and to warn other males to stay out. This territory is taken. Now watch him very carefully. This is amazing. Hey, watch his tail. Look at this. Look at this. Okay, he's going to fly up. Listen very carefully. Oh, amazing. And he's going to come back down, so just watch. Doing his flutter flights, a noisy flight from the ground up to a short height and back down again. Now the flutter flight is used to attract females to the territory and also warn other males that this spot is taken, stay out. Now watch that tail really carefully. Listen to it. Did you notice how with each step of that bird, the tail opens and closes from side to side? Very synchronized movements. Of course, in many males, the song is a very important part of their courtship. In spruce grouse, they're pretty quiet birds, but their song comes from their tails and from their wings. The noises they make are their equivalent to bird song. The tail is quite amazing. When it opens from side to side, it makes quite a swishing sound. That's a very important part of his courtship. Boy, we're lucky this old logging road came through this habitat because we can see the bird in full display without any kind of obstruction of branches or twigs. It's fantastic. Now, besides these noisy parts of the courtship, there's a lot of display as well as visual. The male's feathers are largely black with white tips. This contrasting pattern really shows off when the male's feathers are all fluffed out. Even from behind, this pattern is really quite obvious. But really the most important part of his display, visual display, are those red patches over the eyes. These aren't caused by feather color. They're actually due to blood vessels full of blood. They're called combs, and these really show off in the bird's dark habitat, especially when the dark tail is raised behind them. So a large part of that display is really quite visual. Now that red over the eye, the males use that to impress the females, but also to warn other males to stay away. And if two males get together, they will attack each other's combs. And if they peck at them, there's a tremendous amount of bleeding because of all the blood vessels so close to the skin. So often you find spruce grouse with signs of pecking from other males that have not appreciated their presence. And look at this, he even drummed his wings. That's a behavior that I've read about, but I've never seen till now. Ruffed grouse are famous for the drumming, beating the air with their wings, but spruce grouse also have a very abbreviated part of that display too, that we just saw. There's his drumming, and his flutter flight. Look at the beautiful edge of the tail. These birds have been called in earlier days fool hens because of their incredible tameness. Oh, look at this. Hear that? It's a female. It's a female calling. Up here somewhere. There she is. There she is up in the tree. Pretty good view from over here. You can really see her camouflage pattern. But it's camouflage not for the trees, but for down here on the ground when she's nesting. The same colors on her breast and back feathers are those found right here in the sphagnum moss down below where she nests. She's sitting up there trying to win his favors, I guess. Here he comes. And there he goes. Now we can't really see what's going on back in there, but let's wish them well. Now, not far from here is another bird that actually finished his courtship rituals months ago, and right now has young almost off the nest. Let's go look for it. Go. Now, right now, these birds are nesting. So somewhere not far from here is a gray jay nest. Let's go see if we can find it. Perhaps the nest is close by here. We'll keep on going. Come on, bird, show me your nest. Oh, not the nest. Don't get excited, but actually it is equally as exciting. Come on closer for a minute here. We found some signs of a bigger animal, much bigger than gray jays. These are the droppings of moose. And these are winter droppings. When they're feeding on really dry material like balsam fir twigs and needles, the droppings are much more compact than in summertime when they feed on green leaves full of water. They're quite, well, I guess they're not quite clean to handle, but they're safe to handle. We break one open. You can see all the dry fibers inside. But they have been through here. The tracks lead from here out to a nearby road, and I know why they're going there. Come on over here. We've got a moose down in the ditch. Let's go see what he's doing. Can you see it? Look at the moose very carefully. It's doing two things. It's drinking the water and eating the mud. A rather strange diet, you might think, yet for the moose's time of year, it's very important. The moose is getting salt, getting sodium from that water and that mud. In their winter diet, which gave us those nice brown pellets back earlier, that food lacks sodium almost completely. So by this time of year, moose are sodium starved, and some moose find salt down here in the ditch, In winter here, of course, there's snow on the roads, there's ice on the roads. They use salt to melt it off. And that salt is sodium chloride. That gets washed down and plowed down to the roadside ditch. That mud down there and the water down there is just full of sodium. So these moose that are sodium starved by early spring, some get lucky and find sodium right here in that water, in that mud. They'll spend hours down here doing nothing else but getting a sodium fix. You'll notice on this moose, there's lots of hair loss around the shoulders and toward the rump, the back end of the body. That's for two reasons. One is they're losing their winter coat of hair. That's being shed now. But also, you might see little bumps on the shoulders. Those are little parasites called ticks, and they're feeding on the moose's blood. Now, they don't really hurt the moose. Maybe just tick it off a little bit, you might say. But what the moose does, it gets very itchy from those ticks. It wants to scratch them off. So the moose will rub its shoulders and back on coarse trees, on rocks even, and that rubs the hair off. So part of that hair loss is caused by normal shedding, but also part of that hair loss is caused by the moose rubbing off those ticks on its body. Now these ticks stay on the moose all winter long. In fact, they're called winter ticks. But the females drop off in early spring and lay their eggs on the ground. In most years, moose bear only a few ticks, and the only real problem is itchiness. But in some years, the moose are covered in thousands of ticks, and they lose a lot of hair by early spring. If the weather turns cold and wet, some moose do die from hypothermia, but that's all part of nature's cycle. Now from a distance, it can be awfully hard telling bull moose from cow moose this time of year because the bulls lack antlers. But you can tell bulls from cows another way, and that is by the color of their snout. In bull moose, that color is dark brown, almost black. In cows, it's a very pale brown. This animal here has got a pale snout, therefore it's a cow. Now, moose do appear to be pretty docile creatures and pose no real threat to us, but they can be aggressive. Cows with their calves will defend them, and during the fall, during the mating season, bulls can be really ornery. It's always best to give any animal, especially big animals like moose, lots of space, lots of respect. Now, whenever you're close to any animal, be sure to watch it for signs of nervousness. In the case of moose, the ears are a giveaway. If the ears go back against the head, that means they're a little bit upset. Same way dogs do when it gets angry. So watch the ears from a distance. If they go back, give the animal lots more space. Right now we find cows and calves still together down by the roadside edge getting salt. But this will change very, very shortly. As they approach the birthing season, which takes place in the latter part of May, this cow will turn against her yearling and drive it away. It must be really confusing for this youngster to have its mother behave this way. But it's all done for a very good reason. Once the female's on her birthing site, she wants to be alone. If the yearling stayed with her, it might draw more attention from wolves or bears to that site and place the new youngster in jeopardy. So in a matter of only weeks from now, this happy relationship will change dramatically. After the break, we'll continue our search for this Grey Jay's nest. Now, Grey Jays stay in this habitat year-round. They store food all through the spring, summer, and fall, and live off that food the following winter. That's why they nest early. Now somewhere back in here is that gray jay's nest. Oh, there it is. There's the nest. Right up here in a little black spruce. I've got to be honest though, I didn't find this nest. It was found by Dan Strickland and his group of gray jay nest finders earlier on this season. We'll talk to Dan shortly about that. Dan Strickland, Chief Park Naturalist of Algonquin Park, has been studying gray jays and their amazing behaviors for years. One of Dan's helpers during the gray jay nesting season actually did find that nest. How long ago, Dan?
The nest was found on February the 28th.
So we're looking at almost 2 months now.
That's right.
And those birds are pretty big, so they'll be off pretty soon?
Yeah, I figure they're going to fledge either tomorrow or the next day.
How many young are there in that nest?
There are 4 nestlings in that nest. Normally what happens is when the young are about 6 weeks old, in the month of June, they will start to fight amongst themselves, and the fights will get more and more intense over a period of about 10 days, and finally one dominant juvenile will expel his former nest broodmates from the natal territory, and it alone will get to stay with mom and dad through the coming summer, fall, and winter.
Sounds like my childhood back in Armstrong. Now, one stays, but why? Why do the parents retain one young in their territory for the winter? What possible advantages are there to the...
Well, it's certainly advantageous to stay with mom and dad, because they can show you what's good to eat and where stored food is, and maybe you're not quite as adept at finding food as they are, but you watch them, and then they go and stash some food for the coming winter, and then you go and pilfer it and hide it in your own hiding place. And because you've got a phenomenal memory, you remember where that is, and that may spell success or failure the following winter.
So Dan, any estimates on how many items that a gray jay will store in a single year?
No, but in Alaska, near the northern edge of the gray jay's range, observations have been made showing that a gray jay might store as many as 1,000 items in a single day. Now, whether they remember where all of them are,
right,
is an open question, but they certainly remember where many of them are.
So they probably still recall thousands of storage items.
Yeah, they can do something that no human being could dream of.
I can't find my keys in the morning, Dan. One single item, they can find thousands. That's incredible. How does that food stay fresh through the long summer and the fall?
Excellent question. Well, there are a number of ideas. One is that the saliva, gray jays have highly developed salivary glands, and they coat the food that they store with the saliva, and they sort of mush it around in their mouth, and then they stick it behind little pieces of bark like this, and that serves to stick it in there, but it may also have a preservative effect. There is another possibility too, however, and that is that gray jays seem to be tied to spruce forest, and it might be that there are nasty compounds that the tree has to retard bacterial and insect depredations on the tree. But if that stuff oozes into pieces of stored food,
right, that might do the trick.
That might make the difference.
Yeah. So you're considering a name change then from gray jay to spruce jay, perhaps?
That would be entirely appropriate.
Speaking of names, most birds, most animals, and most living things have 2 names: a common name and a scientific name. But your birds have 3 names, and the third name is very strange. Wazzle Poser, all sorts of strange names like that, Dan. And earlier we met a gray jay with color bands on the leg, so perhaps you want to tell us about
you met Wazzle Boyer and Ghoulwozer down the road. Well, Wazzle Boyer is white over standard left, blue over yellow right. That's the male. Mm-hmm. Incidentally, he's a 2-year-old who was born on this territory. And of course, these names come from the unique combinations of color bands that I give each banded bird. That enables me or helpers to look at the bird without catching it and know exactly which bird it is.
For how many years, Dan, have you done this banding and observation of gray jays in Algonquin Park?
It's going on 30 years, but I mean, can you think of another bird in the world that's more rewarding to work with and more interesting and has such neat biology than a gray jay?
Gray jays, moose, and spruce grouse. We came to the northern forest looking for these animals, and we certainly did find them. But we also found additional things too. For example, on this rocky ledge, we found nesting ravens. Ravens, just like gray jays, nest very early in the season. But not quite as early, because this bird is still on its eggs. We also had an amazing encounter with a red fox hunting on a rocky ridge. The fox responded really well to the calls I was giving to lure it in. Wasn't that an incredible journey into our northern forest? Thanks for coming along. Join me next time for another adventure where everything is wild by nature.